Cozy Heart. My Little Pony Fanfic. By StarThief. Chapter 12. The Old Pages of a Story. And that's how Star Swirl the Bearded banished the terrifying, evil sirens to an alternate world, where they would remain trapped forever so they could no longer harm Equestria or the ponies who live in it. The end, said a young blue Pegasus as she closed a book and then lifted her gaze toward the classroom where she had been telling the story to a group of little foals. All right, I need to know if you understood the point of the story. Flint, could you tell me how the pillars defeated the sirens? A small unicorn quickly lifted his head and then looked around nervously before finally speaking. With Star Swirl's magic. Who opened the portal, Anne? Ron. Basically, yes. That is what happened. But not exactly. There was something more. Skips, could you tell me? A filly quickly looked up when she heard her name and, after thinking for a few seconds, nodded and spoke. Because Star Swirl and the other pillars were good and the sirens were evil, the bad guys never win. It was really because of something stronger than any magic. It was thanks to the pillars' unity, their bond, their friendship created a stronger magic, and that's how they managed to defeat the sirens and banish them. Little ponies, I want you to remember very well that there's nothing stronger and more unbreakable than friendship. It's what helps us become better. The unity between ponies will always give us strength. If someone needs a hoof, don't hesitate to give it, because an act of friendship will always bring good things. That's all for today, my little ponies. We'll see each other tomorrow. Take care, said the Pegasus as she stood up and began erasing what was on the board while she listened to her little students leaving the classroom, saying their goodbyes one by one. In the end, only one little Pegasus stayed behind. She walked up to the teacher and stared at her closely. But Miss Star, the filly said. Little Star quickly turned her gaze toward the filly and walked closer. Yes? What happens if a pony can't make friends? Do they stay alone and can't have any magic? Little Star smiled and gently patted the filly's mane with her hoof. We all find friends sooner or later. No pony deserves to be alone. We all need someone sooner or later. Why do you ask? It's just that. I haven't been able to make any friends since I moved to Ponyville, the little Pegasus replied. Those words melted Little Star's heart. She smiled again and then took 2 bracelets out of a drawer in the desk. Who said you don't have any friends? She asked as she walked up to her and gently took one of her hooves to start putting one of the bracelets on it. I'm your friend. If you ever need me, you can count on me, okay? Don't forget that. The filly's eyes lit up with excitement and joy when she heard Little Star's words and saw her bracelet, even more so when she saw Little Star put the other bracelet on her own hoof, making it clear they were a symbol of friendship. After that, she hugged her teacher tightly and then flew away. Little Star smiled as she watched her go and then went back to erasing the chalkboard. Once she was done, she started organizing some papers and worksheets for the little ones. Among them she picked up the book she had been using to tell them stories and began flipping quickly through its pages and the tales inside. From the defeat of Nightmare Moon at the hooves of Twilight and her friends, to the redemption of Discord, the defeat of King Sombra. Many stories until she reached one of the pages that most caught her attention. The title of that story immediately made her stop on those pages. The 3 Villains of Equestria was what she read in her head as she skimmed the words of that tale. She quickly understood what it was about. It was the defeat of Chrysalis, Tyrike and Cozy Glow. That last name felt more than familiar to her. Every time she heard that story, that name, several memories came back to her, some good, others bad, but always the same image of that defenseless little Pegasus, her first friend. She even felt a bit guilty, maybe because she had been adopted before her. Or instead of her. What are you doing here? School's over for today. You can go home, little star, said a unicorn as she walked into the classroom. It was Starlight Glimmer, headmare of the School of Friendship. Oh, yeah. I just wanted to see what story I'll tell the foals tomorrow. Today I read them The Defeat of the Sirens. The Dazzlings? The what? Little Star asked, tilting her head. Oh, well, a long time ago I had the chance to go to the place where they were banished. They're kind of popular there, but anyway, there are lots of very kind people there willing to lend you a hand. A hand. Hoof, hand, whatever. Do you enjoy working as a substitute teacher? Starlight asked as she looked at her. Oh, of course. I admit that when I first got here to Ponyville I was really nervous. I looked for a lot of jobs and didn't find anything. When you offered me this position I was so nervous. I had never taught a class before. But I like it, Little Star replied. Well, we really needed someone to take Pinkie Pie's place while she's pregnant. Although I saw her at the Ponyville market yesterday, bouncing around. Well, it is Pinkie Pie. The point, or what I'm getting at, is, how would you feel about a permanent position here? I know I promised it would only be temp. Asterisk, you're kidding, asterisk? Of course, I'd love to be a permanent teacher here. Perfect. In that case it's official. Anyway, I'll give you the paperwork and so on tomorrow. For now it's already late. Come on, I'll walk you to the exit, Starlight said as she started to leave the classroom. Little Star walked out after her and trotted at her side as they headed toward the exit of the School of Friendship. On their way down the halls they could still see some ponies and other creatures walking along the corridors and leaving their classrooms. Little Star watched each of them with interest as she went. What caught her eye the most was a little Kirin who always left late from the classroom where Sunburst usually taught. Just like always, she came running out with her saddlebags open and badly slung over her back. It had almost become routine since Little Star started teaching at the school. She hadn't lived in Ponyville for long either, just a few months. She'd been lucky to be hired as a substitute teacher by Trixie due to a series of mix-ups and an accident. Because in her first days in town she had just walked out of a job interview where she'd been rejected, and on the way she'd been run over by an orange Pegasus with a purple mane on a scooter. That Pegasus had taken her to the school to be looked after, and everything ended with the blue unicorn reading her job application. She still remembered with some amusement her first class in that little foals room. That day she had been a bundle of nerves. But those nerves faded when she came up with a game so they could introduce themselves to her and she to them. From then on she fell in love with what was now her new job. Starlight, I'm glad to see you, Trixie said as she walked up to them. Starlight just smiled at the blue unicorn and then nodded. The new magic artifacts from Canterlot finally arrived. They also came with a letter from Twilight that's for you. All the others are excited about her upcoming visit. Hee, Trixie said as she handed over the letter with her horns magic. I'll go put the magic artifacts away. Sure, thank you very much, Trixie. Have a good evening, Starlight said, then continued on with Little Star. That shipment is very special. Once a month they bring us artifacts from the castle to use in magic classes. But this time there's a very special one. Well, 2 of them. Some necklaces capable of switching minds. Or something like that. Trixie took forever to convince Twilight to lend them to her for a class. I still can't believe you talk regularly with Princess Twilight, Little Star said. Well, we've both known her for a long time. But you might meet her soon. She'll be coming to Ponyville in a few days. That's why the other teachers have been making preparations. The busiest one is Applejack. She's always in charge of the delicious banquets at Sweet Apple Acres. Little Star smiled when she heard that and then shook her head. Impossible that I'll meet the princess. What am I supposed to say to her? You will. Mostly because this school is hers. Hee hee. After that last comment, they finally reached the exit, and there they watched the rest of the ponies and other creatures leaving. All right, see you tomorrow. Have a good evening, Starlight said with a smile as she said goodbye and then walked off toward the castle, which was practically right next to the school. Little Star sighed and then lowered her head slightly. Once she was out of school, there wasn't much to do. Just go home and spend time reading or simply sleep. Her schedule was completely free after she finished teaching, and that bored her, because even though she interacted with Starlight, Trixie and the others at school, she hadn't really become friends with them. Outside of school, she didn't see or talk to them. At least that's how she felt, that she still hadn't managed to form a real friendship with them. See you tomorrow, little star, said a white unicorn as she left the school. It was Sweetie Belle. Oh, see you tomorrow, little star replied. After that, the unicorn stopped and turned to look at her, then walked over. Is something wrong? You look down, the unicorn said. Little Star shook her head nervously and then looked away. And no, not really, I just, I'm tired. You know, the little ones have so much energy and my hooves are already cracking. Hee hee, she said with a faint embarrassed blush. Not at all. I can tell when a pony is sad. Come with me, I'm meeting up with the other crusaders. After all, we're new at this whole teaching at the School of Friendship thing too. It wouldn't be bad if you joined us, the unicorn replied with a smile. Little Star looked at her and couldn't help but agree. After all, she didn't have anything else to do afterwards, so in a way going out with them gave her some relief, but also made her nervous, because outside of a few encounters in the school hallways she hadn't talked with them much. Even so, she knew who they were, since one of them had run her over, and that was why she now worked at that school. All right, I guess I can go, hee hee. So I thought, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea to put a few raisins in the recipe, but Big Mac lost it over that. I agree. Who puts raisins in a meal that perfect? Only psychopaths, Scootaloo said, then took a sip of her milkshake. Hey, whose side are you on? Apple Bloom shot back. On the side of those of us who believe putting raisins or nuts in tasty food is for psychopaths. I'm with Big Mac on this. Girls, I'm here. Sorry I'm late. I had to put a few books away before leaving, and I brought someone with me, Sweetie Belle said as she walked into the place where the other two crusaders were. Sweetie Belle, Apple Bloom said. Good thing you're here. Tell Scootaloo that raisins are Oh, you came with Little Star. At that last comment, the blue Pegasus lowered her gaze a little, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. Great. Come on, sit down, hee hee, said the red-maned pony with a smile. Scootaloo, however, looked away completely embarrassed. It had been a long time since she'd run Little Star over, but, even so, the little interaction they'd had in that time made the whole topic still embarrassing for both of them. Still, Little Star ended up sitting beside her after Sweetie Belle sat down first, leaving only that spot free. Yeah, since the four of us are new as teachers at the School of Friendship, I thought it'd be nice for her to join us this time, Sweetie Belle said. But you three were already teaching there before I got here, Little Star said. Yeah, well, the day Scoot ran you over was our first day and she was late. Hee hee, that's why she was in such a hurry, Apple Bloom blurted out. Little Star smiled faintly when she heard that. Basically, yes, they'd all been teaching there the same amount of time. Why yeah, sorry about that, Scoot murmured. It's okay, I actually have to thank you. If it hadn't been for that, I might still be out looking for work. The interview I came out of that day was the 5th one. I guess that accident was a stroke of luck. He. Scutolo smiled sheepishly and then nodded, finally looking at the blue Pegasus. So, what brought you to Ponyville? I mean, to live here, he. WL. Work, really. I came here after trying my luck in Powhatan, but it's a pretty harsh city for newcomers, so I spent a long time working as a waitress in a restaurant. I thought it'd be temporary while I found something better, but it wasn't. I got stuck there, so when I got the chance to come to Ponyville I took it. After all, since I was little I've admired this place. I've always loved how lovely it is. Little Star replied. I see. So you'd already been here before, Apple Bloom said. Yeah, as a filly I was part of the full squad from the Smiles Orphanage in Cloudsdale, so we'd come during winter wrap-up or when winter arrived. He. Actually we used to help all year round, but my favorite times were always the arrival and farewell of winter, mainly because my best friend and I used to enjoy winter so much. Ooh, so you're from Cloudsdale. Or. Sweetie Belle, Apple Bloom cut in. He, it's okay. I'm not an orphan. Well, I was, but I stopped being one a long time ago. A lovely couple adopted me when I was a filly and, well, I owe them a lot. My parents still live in Cloudsdale. I go see them now and then. I also have a little brother. He, Little Star replied. The 3 ponies smiled when they heard what the Pegasus was saying, until Scootaloo asked another question. So, what do you think of Ponyville now? I mean, now that you actually live here. He. Well, I love it, even though it's now a famous place because of Princess Twilight. It's still quiet and really beautiful. He. Ponyville was quiet? Sweetie Belle asked sarcastically, remembering that when she was a filly her sister and the rest of Twilight's friends constantly faced threats in town. The other 2 laughed at Sweetie Belle's sarcastic question and then looked back at Little Star. It's nice that you like it here. After all, this place became famous as the home of friendship. He, since, well, this is where the Princess of Friendship was formed, Scootaloo said. Yeah, I think that's something I've come to admire about this place too. I wonder what the ponies who were her neighbors felt when she was just a regular unicorn. Well, I still have several books she used to give me for hearth's warming or my birthdays, Scootaloo said. Big Mac still keeps that old doll, Apple Bloom added. Well, Rarity still writes to her often, and she still makes clothes for events in Canterlot, so we see her from time to time. He, Sweetie Belle said. The Crusaders' answers left Little Star completely silent. It honestly seemed like everyone in Ponyville had stories or some kind of closeness to the princess, while she was just a fan. But if she thought about it, she did have a connection, because her first friend had turned into an evil villain who tried to kill the princess. That wasn't exactly a comforting thought for her. Wow. Little Star said awkwardly. Anyway, do you have anything planned to teach in your classes? I was thinking it'd be a good idea to teach the kids how to buck trees so the apples fall with a single kick, like Applejack taught me, Apple Bloom said, changing the subject. Well, I've already organized some plans. I asked Starlight for permission to write some letters and get permission to take the little ones on a field trip to the old castle of the 2 sisters, Sweetie Belle replied. Ugh, I just thought about doing group activities. I deal with griffins and those guys start fighting every 2 minutes, Scootaloo said. After answering, the 3 of them quickly turned to look at Little Star, who blushed as soon as she noticed. WL. I've been telling my little ones stories. mostly ones that really highlight the power of friendship. But I'm almost done with the book. The only stories I have left are the ones involving the three villains," she said, her voice falling a little at the end. "Hey, yeah, Cozy Glow, ha! Remember when she tricked us into helping her study and then answered wrong on purpose?" Scootaloo said. "Yeah, geez, she was really good at manipulating and tricking ponies. I remember she seemed completely kind and innocent," Sweetie Belle replied, crossing her forelegs. Little Star was surprised by their answers, since they even had things to say about the pony who had once been her best friend. "Yeah, I also remember when we got stuck in a closet while she trapped Starlight and almost drained all the magic from Equestria," Apple Bloom said. "Even worse, when she came back with Tyrek and Chrysalis and almost destroyed magic. Again." "Well, the second time it was more like destroying Equestria in general," Scootaloo added. "Yeah, Rarity hit Tyrek with a rock. Or at least that's what she tells me." Little Star just kept shrinking into herself as she listened to them talk. Thinking about Cozy Glow made her feel awful, a mix of emotions, and for some reason one of those feelings was guilt. She didn't really know why, but even so she felt as if she were indirectly to blame for her best friend turning into one of the most hated ponies in history. "Is something wrong, Little Star?" Sweetie Belle asked. "Yeah, you look uncomfortable. Is something up? That's what friends are for. You can tell us if something's wrong," Apple Bloom said. Friends." Little Star looked at the three of them while she could hear her heart pounding and the room seemed to get slightly warmer. "Why yeah, friends. Oh, of course. Thank you," she said, putting her hooves over her face. "Goodness. You really look unwell. Let's go outside so you can get some air, okay?" Sweetie Belle said. Little Star just shook her head. "We're sorry if this is uncomfortable." It's not that. You're all really sweet and I'm happy Sweetie Belle invited me. But..." Little Star just looked away and sighed. "Come on, let it out. It's okay. On the contrary, it'll help to talk about whatever's on your mind," Scootaloo said. "All right, it's just that. The topic of the three villains. Well, Cozy Glow. It weighs on me a bit," Little Star said. "Huh? Why? Did something happen back then? I mean, we're the same age. You basically lived through that stuff just like we did, right?" Sweetie Belle asked. Little Star just nodded, then took a breath and finally spoke. "It's not that. I actually didn't live through those events up close. My parents and I stayed in Cloudsdale when the Pegasi started forming the Cloud Wall during the Wendigo invasion. When they joined the battle against the three, my mother stayed with me in Cloudsdale. Only my father went. Thankfully nothing bad happened. But what weighs on me is, I don't really think that's Cozy Glow." "What? Of course it's Cozy Glow. What are you talking about?" Apple Bloom asked. "No, the Cozy I knew when we were fillies wasn't like that. She was good. It's hard for me to believe every time I hear the story and every time I remember the Wendigos' arrival. Did my friend really do all that? Was I at fault for leaving her alone? Maybe she should have been adopted instead of me." "Oh, so you were her friend," Scootaloo said. "Cozy was an orphan too? That actually explains a few things." "Yeah, we both grew up together in the orphanage I told you about, until I was adopted and, well, I never heard from her again. I wrote to her but my letters were never answered. Maybe that last hug we shared was it. Maybe she got mad at me for being adopted. I don't know. But even so, it's hard for me to believe that whole story. But there's no doubt. I even went to see her in the gardens of Canterlot. I stood face to face with her statue a few years ago. The three ponies stayed silent after hearing the blue Pegasus's words. It was like that for a few seconds until Sweetie Belle finally took the initiative and gently hugged Little Star. You shouldn't feel guilty for something that wasn't in your hooves. Cozy was a two-faced pony. We know that from how we met her and from what she did, but that doesn't mean you're part of that bad story. You're not bad. It's okay. Not every friend is a good one. Yeah, not every friend is good or forever. But even so, there'll be new friendships. Like us, Apple Bloom said as she looked at Little Star and then joined the hug. Yeah, don't carry the weight of something you didn't do or cause. Cheer up, Scootaloo said, then joined the hug as well. Little Star felt the three of them hugging her and, for the first time in a long time, she truly felt the warmth of friendship again. She had made friends before, after being adopted, but she'd never really managed to form lasting or truly meaningful friendships. Now, inside that hug, she could feel the hope that maybe this was the beginning of a real friendship. Finally, tears began to spill from her eyes as she wrapped her wings around all three of them.